frequency of 52 megacycles by authority of the Federal Communications Commission. A test program follows. For you who've been trained technically, I need hardly say that there's still a number of problems to solve. I guess you know them as well as anybody knows them. But I think we've proceeded far enough to justify the statement, at least, that these technical problems are not insurmountable.
Yep, that's
House overlapping allowed. I don't know, Mr. Kong.
So
There we can see, yes.
cool. So we're going to the KOTE deck breakdown now. So Brett and I haven't pre-read these, so we're interested to see expansions, what you play. So this is looking at the over time which expansions were played when, and here we can see that from round one, mass mutation was extremely low, which, given it's generally a little bit higher in the SAS, is not too surprising. And then it has nicely increased, with one exception, week to week. AOA has done the opposite, as expected. Started off quite high and then went down. KOTE has just done everything, and Worlds Collide has just been a disappointment.
It just seems that as mass mutation went on the rise, KOTE then went down.
Which makes sense.
Then as mass mutation went down, KOTE went up. But then we had this strange week where both KOTE and mass mutation went up.
But everything else went down.
I mean, Worlds Collide just crashed into the ground in round 4.
But again, it's back up there in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Over KOTE.
AOA and KOTE are the only ones to finish lower than where they started.
Mm-hmm. So looking at the win rates though, I need my degree in statistics. I never got. So
what I would say here is that basically, as we see the numbers decrease, we see the win rates increase.
Yeah.
So basically, that means that there's a smaller testing pool, but the people that are bringing the decks are confident in these decks.
Yes.
And these decks are getting their win rates.
That's especially true for AOA.
Especially for AOA. AOA's win rate is ridiculous compared to how many decks are in there. The only outlander for this is Mass Mutation, because Mass Mutation is the most popular set, but it also has one of the most consistent win rates, not dipping below 45%.
But so go ahead. So KOTE from after round 2 has just walked off a cliff, basically. Never really recovers the win rates. Now, as we saw in the previous slide, yes, it has gone up and down a bit. So I'd say KOTE itself is and Mass Mutation are breaking that tie. But for Worlds Collide and
that's less about KOTE's in mid SAS, and more about how good the other sets are in mid range SAS.
That is true.
So, KOTE and SAS go hand in hand, and it's because that's where SAS got its kind of start. But as AOA, Worlds Collide, Mass Mutation more move towards board dominance, towards more traditional TCG mechanics, that the board's a lot more important.
Yep.
The artifacts became a lot more important. That what you had down, just because it became less about your synergies, less about your card draw, and more about what you had on the board, more about what you could manipulate on the board. So SAS had to adapt with that, but you'll often see a lot of mid-ranged Worlds Collide and mid-ranged AOA decks being a lot better than the SAS says they are when they're taking on other decks of that level, because it's hard to find a deck that can answer every threat.
Definitely.
And there's some very powerful decks that are just lacking one or two things to make them competitive that work very well in this format that we have.
That is true. So looking at the houses, Shadows across the board, most popular house. Logos increasing over time doesn't surprise us because of the efficiency for Logos gets better the higher the SAS points. Untamed, I'm sad to see it decrease, but on the other hand,
Grogna's decrease is really shocking to me.
Not really, because there's a lot of good low SAS decks that have Brogna in.
But that's what I mean. But there's also a lot of good high sighted ones. But
Not as many.
The Mars and Brobnar decline.
The Mars Supply surprises me.
The Mars and Brobnar decline. I think makes it look to me that the majority of decks bringing Mars and Brobnar were KOTE, because AOA didn't really change that much, and that also had a few increases. But for such dramatic drops in the numbers, there must have been in there. Mars and Brobnar weren't quite good in KOTE, but I wouldn't want to bring a deck with solely because it had them.
Yeah, no, completely. And then look at the house win rates here. If you have Logos at the highest SAS deck, you're more likely to win. If you have Sanctum at the highest SAS square, which you always say is it's an underrated house, it's Mass Mutation. You have always said that.
Yeah. As much as I hate Sanctum, they are a dark horse in Mass Mutation, and even in Dark Tidings, they've got some very good utility with the Tide. If you've got a deck, if I see a Dark Tidings deck that's got Sanctum and Untamed, as long as my third house has got a nice bit of amber control, you're going to have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, that's always the way. And then this never breaks 50% win rate. Which
yeah.
So I mean, this is. All right, I've got one Sanctum and Untamed. Sorry, Sanctum and Logos. I'm looking for in the same deck. Sanctum and Logos. No, nothing in that pile. And look at the other houses.
Logos makes a lot of sense. Shadows and Sanctum is quite a big shock, but the Untamed hitting perfect 50% throughout multiple rounds is really shocking.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, I could say I have got a Logos Sanctum Star Alliance deck, which I will be sharing with you shortly to see how it comes out. But I mean, yeah, looking here, Brognar were bad, but when played a lot. But so Brognar was doing well when fewer people were playing it. Again, it's a smaller pool size, and people only play Brognar when they know how to play that Brognar at that SAS level. But everything just goes off. Look at how much the clip FG is for Star Alliance and the playoffs versus round 7. I mean, if we jump here, it's the complete opposite.
How far these ones drop is Sorin and Star Alliance has huge drops, but again, in Worlds Collide they were very powerful, and Sorin kept a bit of that power moving into Mass Mutation.
Well, I still think Mass Mutation Star Alliance is still massively better than people make it out to be.
It is. But it's lacking the bullshit that you could do in Worlds Collide. There's no blasters anymore that you can that have the extra effects and count towards amber control, board control.
Yeah.
There's not as much warding. There's not as much house cheating. Yes, you can play with Kirby. You can play an extra creature, but it's not the same as when you could chain house cheats off a Kirby action.
Yeah, completely. Sorry, my hay fever is killing me right now. So look, a few words about top 16. Call of the Archons. It's the same as round 4, which is not surprising. Probably the same decks. Age of Ascension. I think it's got one more deck in top. No, not more than one deck. There's a few more decks from AOA in top 16 than there were in round 4. Mass Mutation. A lot less Mass Mutation top 16 than round 4. And the reason it's compared to round 4, for those of you who haven't realised, this is the same SAS cap. And Worlds Collide is near enough the same. The top uncommon card is Interdimensional Graft, and the top rare is Plague Rat. So
59% of players kept their round 4 deck, and this goes back to what ABR was saying about what was going to happen in our top cut. Because a lot of players kept their decks, one, because they did well for them in round 4.
Yep.
And 2, because of SAS changes, those decks were now higher rated, so they couldn't re-register them.
Yep.
So just decided to keep their decks going through. But this gives their opponents extra info. The Key Frogs could now go could have gone over the last couple of days, looked at Knowledge's Powers decks from round 2, and gone, okay, these are the kinds of decks they bring at this SAS level. What decks do we need to bring to beat them?
Yep.
And it's a really good sort of metagame. The only thing now is this isn't good. It isn't going to work from this point on.
Nope.
Next week is a 58 SAS. And I am... Key Frog's confirming they actually did that.
Shh.
But
Yeah.
yeah, next week is a 58 SAS, and the finals is 54. This is where we're going to see a lot of craziness. And after seeing the kind of stuff that we've seen from the Swindles events where they've done SAS caps in this kind of aspects, I do expect to see a lot of playgrounds.
A lot of AOA as well, I expect to see. Generally, not just the playground ones. So, oops, didn't tell you that. So, that was the last slide, I hope, because it seems to take me to the last slide. So we're going to move on to the quiz
You
now.
didn't get sent the quiz.
Pardon?
You didn't get sent the quiz.
I did, I just went past it by mistake.
Oh, okay.
And I can't go back
yeah,
without showing
fine.
people it. So,
Well, you could just go to the quiz slide.
yeah, but I can't go through that without accidentally showing you the other slides.
Ah, okay. I was wondering what was going on there. But did you not get sent the quiz? Oh.
No, I hit end of the page down, so it went to the end.
I will, yes.